She texted a picture of my car wrecked. Oops, you need to buy me a new one, or we're done. I replied, okay. Then I sent the photo and her text to my insurance agent. Now she's begging for a lawyer because they're charging her with insurance fraud. I was at work and my phone buzzed. It was a picture from my girlfriend, Rebecca. My stomach just dropped. The photo was of my car. It's a 1969 Mustang, a real classic. I spent 3 years of my life restoring it with my uncle before he passed away. It wasn't just a car to me, it was the last real thing I had of him. In the picture, the whole front end was smashed into a concrete pillar in our apartment's parking garage. The grill was just gone. I couldn't even breathe for a second. Then the next text came in. She texted a picture of my car wrecked. Oops, you need to buy me a new one, or we're done. I knew exactly what she meant. She didn't want a new Mustang. She wanted the brand new Lexus SUV we'd been fighting about for a month. She was holding my car hostage to get a new one. I just stared at the phone. All the grief I felt for the car just turned into this cold, quiet feeling. I typed back one word. Okay. Then I screenshotted the whole conversation, opened my email, and sent the photo and her text to my insurance agent. His name is Frank. He's handled my family's insurance forever, and he'd been over to see the Mustang a bunch of times while I was working on it. He loved that car. The subject of the email was Claim Inquiry, 1969 Mustang. I called him right after I sent it. Frank, you get my email? Yeah, kid, opening it now, he said. I heard him clicking his mouse. Then there was just silence for a long time. I heard him mutter, Jesus Christ, under his breath. Is this a joke? He finally asked. His voice was low and angry. I wish it was, Frank, I said. It's in the garage, level P2, spot 47. She has a key. Must have done it today. Frank sighed. It was the sound of a guy who has seen way too much stupid stuff in his life. All right, so here's the deal. I'm filing the claim, obviously, but this isn't going to be a normal claim. Because of that text message, this is going straight to our Special Investigations Unit, the SIU. These are the guys who handle fraud, arson, all the really bad stuff. That text she sent you? That's basically a written confession to vandalism and attempted extortion. The SIU guys live for this kind of thing. They're bulldogs. He told me what would happen next. An investigator would get the case. They'd want a statement from me. They'd send a whole forensic team out to the garage to look at the car and the pillar, check for prints, look at the pedals, everything. They'd pull all the security camera footage from the garage. Listen to me, Frank said, and his voice got really serious. Do not talk to her. Don't answer her texts. Don't answer her calls. Let the SIU do their thing. And you need to go stay somewhere else for a while. This is going to blow up, and you don't want to be nearby when it does. I told him I'd go to my parents' place since they were on a cruise. Good man, he said. Keep your head down. I hung up. It felt weird. I hadn't yelled. I hadn't even really done anything. I just forwarded an email. And now a massive insurance company was about to go after my girlfriend. I went to my parents' house, and the first thing I did was call my apartment building's property manager, a guy named Mr. Henderson. I kept my voice super calm and just said, Hi, Mr. Henderson. I have a domestic situation, and my partner, Rebecca, will be moving out. She's not on the lease, but she has a key. I need the locks changed tonight. He started going on about how there's a 48-hour notice policy. I cut him off. I understand, but she just did several $1,000s worth of damage in the parking garage. I'm worried she's going to come after the apartment next. That got his attention. He said he'd have the maintenance guy, Gus, meet me there in an hour. Gus came and changed the deadbolt. I got a bill for $150, timestamped at 7:32 p.m. I saved the PDF, another piece of paper for the file. Of course, Rebecca's texts had already started. Where are you? Are you going to the Lexus dealer or what? Answer me. I just put my phone on silent. I woke up the next morning to a bunch of missed calls and a screaming voicemail. The key doesn't work. What did you do? You can't kick me out. I'll call the landlord. An hour later, Mr. Henderson called. He sounded super annoyed. I just got an earful from a Miss Walsh, he said. She's saying you illegally evicted her. This was her angle. Try to use tenant rights she didn't have. Mr. Henderson, I said, you have a copy of the lease. Section 4, subsection B, the guest policy. She's a guest, and I'm uninviting her. I could hear him flipping papers. You are correct, he said. She has no legal standing. I thought that would be the end of it, but no. A little later, my next-door neighbor, Mrs. Gable, called me. She's a sweet old lady. She sounded terrified. Dear, there's a woman screaming and banging on your door. She's been doing it for 10 minutes. I think she's trying to kick it down. I felt terrible that she had to deal with that. I told her I was so sorry and that I would handle it. I called the building's security and told them there was someone trying to break down my door. 10 minutes after that, Mr. Henderson called me again. He was pissed. She wouldn't leave. We had to call the cops to get her off the property. She's been formally trespassed. If she comes back, she'll be arrested. I'm emailing you the notice. A minute later, a PDF popped up in my inbox. A formal, no trespass order. Her attempt to bully her way back in got her a police escort out. After she was banned from the building, she went for our friends. My buddy Liam texted me a screenshot from our group chat, The Crew. Rebecca had posted the picture of the Mustang. I'm so shaken up, you guys, she wrote. Some maniac in a truck hit me in the garage and just took off. The car is totaled. I tried to call him, but he's ignoring me. I think he's just mad about the car. He totally abandoned me. Of course, her best friend Becca jumped right in. OMG, that's horrible. He's such a monster. He only ever cared about that stupid car. She was playing the victim, and it was working. I knew I couldn't just jump in and say, nah. So I started a separate group chat with just Liam and 2 other close friends, Mark and Jen. I called it The Truth. All I did was post the screenshot I had taken of my phone, the one with the picture of the car and her text right under it. Oops, you need to buy me a new one or we're done. I added one sentence. It wasn't a hit and run, guys, it was blackmail. The replies came back instantly. Holy crap. Dude, that's actually insane. I knew she was crazy. But Becca and Rebecca weren't done. 2 days later, Liam sent me another screenshot. It was a GoFundMe page Becca made. Help Rebecca recover from traumatic hit and run. They were asking for $10,000 for therapy and moving costs. They were literally trying to make money off this. I didn't say a word to any of them. I just forwarded the link to the GoFundMe to Maria Sanchez, the SIU investigator. I'd given her my official statement that morning. She was super sharp. Her email back was short and sweet. Thank you. This is now part of the investigation. Please be aware that soliciting funds under false pretenses can be considered wire fraud. We will handle this. The next day, the GoFundMe was gone. They had accidentally added another possible felony to the pile. That night, my phone rang with an unknown number. I put it on record and answered. It was her dad, Mr. Walsh. He's one of those rich guys who thinks he can fix anything with his checkbook. He started off all friendly. Son, sounds like there's been a little misunderstanding. Rebecca's pretty upset. She admits she got a little carried away. How about I cut you a check for the damages? Let's say 15 grand to make it go away? He really thought he could just buy me off. Mr. Walsh, I said, my voice totally flat. I appreciate it, but no, I can't stop this. It's a formal fraud investigation now. It's out of my hands. The case number is SIU 2023-44B7 if you want to have your lawyer look it up. Dead silence. The friendly act just evaporated. Fraud? He sputtered. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the text your daughter sent me where she admitted to wrecking my car and then tried to extort me, I said. And the fraudulent GoFundMe page. They're looking at all of it. Apparently, it's all pretty illegal. He started threatening me then. You're ruining my daughter's life. No, I said, and my voice got hard. Your daughter is doing that all on her own. I'm just not letting her take me down with her. I've recorded this call. Don't call me again. I hung up. I really thought that had to be the end of it. She was cornered, exposed, and being investigated. I figured she'd just retreat and deal with the mess she'd made. I was wrong. Her final move was a direct attack on my career. About 2 weeks later, I was in a big video meeting at work. My boss, David, starts texting me. Call me. Emergency. I jumped off the call and dialed his number, my heart pounding. There's a woman in the lobby, he said, his voice tight with stress. Rebecca. She's screaming at the receptionist that you stole money from her and you've been stalking her. She's crying her eyes out. Security is coming, but it's a full-blown scene. My blood ran cold. I work at a small wealth management firm. Our clients are all high net worth individuals. Our reputation for stability and discretion is everything. A screaming woman in the lobby is the kind of thing that can get you fired, no questions asked. I drove to the office like a madman. By the time I got there, security had already removed her, but the damage was done. The entire office was silent, and everyone was staring at me. I was called straight into the main conference room. My boss, David, was there, along with our HR manager, Cynthia, and the firm's most senior partner, Mr. Abernathy. They looked like they were about to witness an execution. Mine. "Explain," Mr. Abernathy said. His voice was quiet, which was way scarier than if he'd been yelling. I took a deep breath. This was the moment I had been preparing for. I'd hoped I'd never need it, but I was glad I had it. I opened my briefcase and pulled out a slim, professionally bound folder. I had spent $100 at a print shop to make it look clean and official. I placed it on the polished table. 3 weeks ago, my now ex-girlfriend, Rebecca Walsh, intentionally destroyed my private property in an attempt to extort a vehicle from me, I began. I opened the folder. The first page was a high-resolution print of the photo she'd sent of the wrecked Mustang. She then sent this text message. The next page was the screenshot of our conversation. I didn't just tell them, I showed them. I walked them through everything, my voice calm and factual. I gave them the police report number I'd filed for vandalism. I showed them the time-stamped invoice for the emergency lock change. I showed them the formal no trespass order from my apartment building after she'd been removed by the police. I showed them the screenshots of her lies in the group chat, followed by the screenshot of the GoFundMe page. Finally, I gave them the SIU case number and the name and contact information for the lead investigator, Maria Sanchez. She is the subject of an active, multifaceted felony investigation for insurance fraud, attempted extortion, and potential wire fraud, I concluded, looking Mr. Abernathy directly in the eye. Her appearance here today was not a random act of a scorned lover. It was a calculated, desperate attempt to get me fired as retaliation for the legal consequences she is now facing. She is trying to destroy my career because her life is imploding. The room was dead silent. Mr. Abernathy, a man who could smell BS from a mile away, slowly picked up the printout of the text message. He read it, then read it again. He looked at Cynthia, the HR manager. "This is not a domestic issue," Cynthia said, her voice firm. "This is an external party with a documented history of malicious behavior attempting to harass one of our employees at his place of work. Based on this evidence, we have a duty to protect him and the firm." The relief that washed over me was so intense my knees felt weak. They believed me. The evidence was too overwhelming to ignore. Mr. Abernathy slid the folder back to me. "Thank you for your thoroughness," he said. "Cynthia, have our corporate counsel draft a cease and desist letter and a criminal trespass warning for Ms. Walsh. I want it sent via courier to her and her father today." He looked at me. "Go home for the day. We'll handle the internal messaging here." A month later, Frank called me one last time. "It's over," he said. "The forensics team confirmed everything. They pulled the garage security footage. It shows her getting into the car, revving the engine for 30 seconds, and then driving it straight into the pillar. No ambiguity. The DA has the file. They're charging her with everything. It's not a matter of if, but when." The insurance company cut me a check. It felt hollow. It couldn't replace the hours I spent with my uncle, the smell of grease and paint, the pride of bringing something beautiful back to life. It was just money. Then, 2 weeks ago, I got the call. It was Rebecca. I answered, just to hear the final act. She was sobbing, a pathetic, broken sound. "I got a letter from the district attorney," she cried. "They're charging me with felonies. They said I could go to prison. I need a lawyer." She was babbling, incoherent. "You have to help me. You have to call them, tell them it was all a big joke, a mistake. Please, I'm begging you." The arrogance was gone. The entitlement was gone. It was just this terrified person on the other end of the line, a person who had finally run out of people to manipulate. Now she's begging for a lawyer because they're charging her with insurance fraud. I let her cry for a minute, listening to the sound of her world collapsing. Then I said, my voice completely empty, "Rebecca, you should have thought of that before you sent the text." I hung up the phone. I blocked her number, then I blocked her dad's number and Becca's. She texted from my phone. I just texted your mom that you hate her and never want to see her again. You need to cut her off. I replied from my computer, understood. Then I called my mom, explained everything, and we booked a 2-week family reunion trip to Hawaii, forwarding her all the confirmations. When she saw the Instagram posts, my girlfriend and I have been together for 2 years, and for about 23 of those months, I thought she was the one. Then, yesterday afternoon, she used my own phone to detonate our life. It all happened while I was in the shower. I came out, getting ready for a dinner we were supposed to have with friends, and saw my phone on the nightstand. There was a text message on the screen, but it was from my girlfriend, Alice. That was weird, since she was in the living room. The message read, "I just texted your mom that you hate her and never want to see her again. You need to cut her off." I stood there for a solid minute, just dripping water on the floor, trying to make sense of the words. It felt like a prank, but a really cruel one. I swiped over to my message thread with my mom, and there it was, sent from my phone 10 minutes ago. "I can't do this anymore. You've been a destructive force in my life, and I'm done. I hate you. Don't contact me again. I never want to see you again." My blood went cold. My mom and I are close. My dad passed away 5 years ago, and it's just been her since then. We talk almost every day. That message would absolutely crush her. Before I could even process the rage, I saw the 3 little dots that show someone is typing. It was Alice, sending another message to my phone. "She's your past. I'm your future. Time to choose." Something inside me just switched off. The shock, the hurt, it all got shoved into a box and locked away. What was left was this strange, cold calm. I didn't yell. I didn't storm into the living room. I walked over to my desk, sat down at my computer, and opened my messaging app, which is linked to my phone. I saw her message, waiting for a reply. I typed back one word: understood. Then I picked up my phone and called my mom. She answered on the first ring, her voice choked with tears. It was one of the worst sounds I've ever heard. She could barely speak, just kept asking what she did wrong, what had happened. I cut her off gently. "Mom, listen to me very carefully. That wasn't from me. Alice took my phone and sent that message." The silence on the other end was heavy. Then came a wave of relief so powerful, I could feel it through the phone. She started asking why Alice would do something so horrible. I told her we could talk about that later. But right now, I needed to know she was okay. I told her I loved her and that the message was a disgusting lie. As we were talking, an idea formed in my head. It was clear, simple, and felt like the only logical next step. "You know what?" I said, my voice steady. "We haven't taken a real trip, just the 2 of us, since Dad died. How about we go somewhere? A family reunion? Just you and me. Let's go next week." She was surprised, said it was too much, too last minute. I insisted. "Mom, we're doing this. Where do you want to go?" "Anywhere." She hesitated, then said she'd always wanted to see Hawaii. "Done," I said. I pulled up a travel website on my computer while we were still on the phone. 2 first-class tickets to Maui, booked. A 2-bedroom suite at a beachfront resort for 2 weeks, booked. Rental car, booked. I paid for it all, right then and there. As the confirmation emails started rolling in, I did one last thing. I forwarded every single one of them. The flight itinerary, the hotel reservation, the car rental confirmation, to Alice's personal email address. I didn't add a subject line or a message. The documents spoke for themselves. I finished the call with my mom, promising to see her the next day. Then I stood up, got dressed, and walked into the living room where Alice was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone with a smug little smile on her face. She looked up, that smile still there, expecting me to start a fight or beg or something. I just looked at her and said, "Our dinner reservation is in an hour. We should probably get going." The confusion on her face was just the beginning. Looking back, the signs were there. Alice had always been a little weird about my mom. When we first started dating, she was perfect. She was charming, she laughed at my mom's stories, she even called her just to chat sometimes. It was one of the things that made me fall for her. She seemed to get how important family was to me. But over the last 6 months, things started to shift. It was subtle at first. Little comments, like saying my mom was a bit traditional, or that she depended on me too much. She started trying to create distance. If I was on the phone with my mom, Alice would come into the room and start talking to me, trying to interrupt. If I made plans to have Sunday dinner at my mom's house, Alice would suddenly have a migraine or a work emergency she'd forgotten about. She never said, "Don't go," but she made it clear she disapproved. She'd say things like, "Don't you think you're a little old to be running to your mommy every weekend?" I defended my mom every time, telling Alice that my relationship with my mother was not up for discussion. I thought it was just a phase, some kind of insecurity. I figured she'd get over it. The other major issue was money. I have a good job and I'm careful with my finances. Alice moved into my apartment about a year ago. I own the place, so she doesn't pay rent, but we agreed she would contribute to utilities and groceries. For the first few months, she did. Then the payments became less frequent. She was always a little short this month, or waiting for a big check to clear. I never pushed it. I could afford to cover things, and I didn't want to create tension over a few $100s. But I noticed she never seemed to be short on money for new clothes or expensive nights out with her friends. About 3 months ago, she started pushing for a joint bank account. It would be so much easier to manage our expenses, she'd said. I told her I preferred to keep our finances separate. It's a principle I've always had. It keeps things clean. She got really upset, accused me of not trusting her, of not seeing a real future with her. I held my ground. I see now that my refusal to merge our finances was probably a major roadblock in her long-term plan. She saw my money as our money, and my refusal to give her direct access to it was a problem she needed to solve. Isolating me from my mom, my biggest supporter, and the person who would immediately tell me if she suspected something was wrong, was clearly step one. So, at dinner that night, Alice was visibly on edge. She kept checking her phone under the table, probably waiting for me to explode about the text messages. But I acted like nothing was wrong. I talked to our friends, I laughed, I told a story about a funny thing that happened at work. I was the perfect, normal boyfriend. Alice just picked at her food, watching me with a confused and suspicious look. The power dynamic had shifted. She had expected a tearful, dramatic confrontation where she held all the cards. Instead, I gave her nothing. She was the one who was off balance. When we got home, the act dropped. The second the door closed, she rounded on me. "Did you not see my messages?" she demanded. I just shrugged, taking off my jacket. "I saw them." Her eyes narrowed. "And? That's it? You have nothing to say?" "I understood the message," I said, my voice flat. "You made your position clear. So did I." That's when her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and I saw her face drain of color. She had seen the forwarded emails. She looked up at me, her mouth opening and closing. "Hawaii? You're going to Hawaii with her? What is this?" "It's a family reunion," I said calmly. "You said I needed to cut my mother off. I decided to do the opposite. You told me to choose." I did. She started yelling then, screaming about how I had betrayed her, how I was supposed to be on her side. She said my mother was a manipulative old woman who was trying to control my life and that she was only trying to protect me. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. "You tried to protect me by impersonating me and sending a hateful message to my grieving mother?" I asked. "That's a funny way of showing it." The argument went in circles. She cried, she screamed, she accused. Through it all, I just felt empty. The woman I thought I loved was a stranger, a manipulative and cruel person I didn't recognize. Finally, I told her it was over. "We're done, Alice. I want you to pack your things and be out of my apartment by the end of the weekend." That's when the entitlement really came out. "You can't kick me out," she yelled. "I live here. I have rights." I reminded her that her name wasn't on the mortgage or any of the bills. She had never been more than a guest. A long-term guest, but a guest nonetheless. She started making threats then. She said she would tell everyone I was a monster, that she would ruin my reputation. I told her to do whatever she felt she had to do. Then I went into the bedroom and locked the door. I could hear her throwing things in the living room for a while, but eventually it went quiet. The next day, when I came home from work, she was gone. But she had taken more than just her clothes. A laptop from my home office was missing, along with a few other expensive electronics. And she had left a note on the kitchen counter. It wasn't an apology, it was a list of demands. She wanted $5,000 for emotional distress. She wanted another $5,000 for the time and effort she had put into decorating the apartment. And she claimed I had given her the laptop and that I owed her for it. The audacity was almost impressive. I took a picture of the note, then crumpled it up and threw it in the trash. I spent the rest of the evening changing the locks and installing a couple of security cameras. The weekend was quiet. It was strange being in the apartment alone after so long. On Sunday, I went to my mom's place. The relief on her face when she saw me was all the confirmation I needed that I'd done the right thing. We talked for hours, and I told her everything. About Alice's little comments, the money issues, everything. My mom confessed she had never fully trusted Alice. She said there was always something in her eyes that seemed calculating. She just never said anything because she wanted me to be happy. We spent the rest of the day planning our trip, looking up restaurants and excursions. For the first time in months, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. The smear campaign started on Monday. I got a text from a mutual friend asking if I was okay. Apparently, Alice had posted a long, vague story on her social media about escaping a toxic and controlling relationship. She didn't name me, but the implication was clear. She wrote about being isolated from her support system and dealing with a man who was completely enmeshed with his mother. A few of her friends left supportive comments about how brave she was. I didn't respond. I just took screenshots. Then her best friend, Jessica, got involved. She sent me a long, vicious text message calling me every name in the book. She accused me of throwing a helpless woman out on the street and said I was a pathetic mama's boy. She ended the message by saying Alice was going to take me for everything I had. I replied with a single message: "Tell your friend I have a new laptop, and the police report I filed for the stolen one has her name listed as a potential accomplice. Have a nice day." I didn't actually list Jessica on the report, but it was enough to make her go silent. Sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. A few days later, I got a formal-looking letter in the mail. It was from a lawyer. Alice was following through on her threats. The letter was full of legal jargon, but the gist of it was that she was demanding financial compensation for the unlawful eviction and the theft of her personal property, referring to the items she claimed to have paid for in the apartment. It was a complete work of fiction. I scanned the letter and forwarded it to a lawyer my company has on retainer. He called me back an hour later, laughing. He said the letter was an amateurish bluff, full of empty threats and incorrect legal terminology. He said we could ignore it, but it would be more effective to send a response. He drafted a cease and desist letter outlining the actual facts of the situation. That she was a guest with no lease, that she had stolen my property, and that her false accusations constituted defamation. He also included a bill for the stolen laptop and the cost of changing the locks. We sent it to her lawyer's office the next day. I didn't hear anything back for a while. I spent the week getting ready for the trip and trying to put the whole mess out of my mind. My mom and I left for Hawaii the following Tuesday. The moment we stepped off the plane in Maui, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. The air was warm, the sky was blue, and for 2 weeks, I didn't have to think about Alice or her drama. My mom was like a different person too. She was relaxed and happy, free from the stress and hurt Alice had caused. We went snorkeling, we drove the road to Hana, we sat on the beach and read for hours. It was perfect. I decided to post a few pictures on my Instagram. It wasn't about revenge, not really. It was about reclaiming my own life. I wanted my friends and family to see that I was okay, that I was happy. I posted a picture of my mom and me at a luau, both of us wearing leis and smiling. The caption was simple: having an amazing time at our family reunion. I posted another one of us on a catamaran, with the ocean sparkling behind us. I didn't tag Alice or mention her at all. My life was moving on, and she was no longer a part of the picture. The explosion happened on the 5th day of our trip. I woke up to my phone buzzing non-stop. It was a flood of notifications. I had dozens of missed calls from unknown numbers and a torrent of messages. Alice had seen the pictures. Her mask of the calm, collected victim had been obliterated. The voicemails were unhinged. She was screaming, crying, making threats. She accused me of flaunting my happiness in her face, of doing this deliberately to hurt her. "You were supposed to be miserable. she screamed in one message. You were supposed to be begging me to come back. Then the text messages started. They were from her, from Jessica, from numbers I didn't recognize. They were a mix of rage and desperation. Jessica called me a cruel manipulator. Alice's messages were all over the place. One minute she was threatening to sue me for everything I had. The next she was pleading with me to talk to her, saying she had made a terrible mistake and that she still loved me. She said she had been wrong about my mom and that she would do anything to make it right. It was pathetic. Her plan had backfired completely. She thought that by isolating me, she could break me down and make me dependent on her. Instead, I had cut her out of my life like a cancer and was now thriving without her. Her seeing me happy, especially with the very person she had tried to turn me against, was something her narcissistic mind couldn't handle. I didn't reply to any of the messages, I just blocked the numbers as they came in. I showed my mom a few of the tamer ones, and she just shook her head sadly. Some people are just black holes, sweetie, she said. They try to suck all the light out of everyone around them. We spent the rest of our vacation enjoying the sunshine, and I put my phone on silent. The drama could wait. I was on my own time now. When I got back home, the apartment felt different. It was clean and quiet. It was mine again. A large pile of mail was waiting for me, and in it was another letter from Alice's lawyer. This one had a much different tone. It was a formal offer to resolve all matters amicably. It stated that Alice would drop all her financial claims if I agreed not to pursue criminal charges for the stolen laptop. It was a retreat, a full surrender. She knew she had no legal leg to stand on, and my lawyer's letter had probably terrified her. There was a package waiting for me as well. It was the laptop, shipped back with a note from Alice. It was a single, tear-stained page, full of apologies and excuses. She wrote that she had been insecure, that she was jealous of my relationship with my mom, that she had let her friends influence her. It was a long list of reasons, but none of them were an apology for the person she was. It was all about how her actions were a result of her feelings, with no real acknowledgement of the pain she had inflicted. I read the letter once, then threw it away with the box. A few weeks went by. I had my lawyer formally accept her offer, on the condition that she sign a document agreeing to have no further contact with me or my mother, ever again. She signed it. The silence was golden. One of our mutual friends reached out to me wanting to apologize. He said that after the Hawaii pictures, Alice had a complete meltdown in their group chat, revealing the entire story in a fit of rage, how she had sent the text from my phone, how she had planned to isolate me. He sent me the screenshots. Seeing her own words, bragging about her plan, and then lamenting how it had all gone wrong, was the final nail in the coffin. She had exposed herself completely. Her friends, even Jessica, started to back away from her. Nobody wants to be associated with that level of crazy. Last I heard, Alice had to move back in with her parents in another state. She couldn't afford her life in the city without my support. She had burned all her bridges and was left with nothing. She tried to create a reality where she was the center of my universe, and when I refused to live in it, her entire world collapsed. Last night, I had my mom over for dinner at my place. I cooked her favorite meal. We sat and talked for hours, laughing. The apartment felt warm and full of light. It was peaceful. My life is simpler now, and so much better. I dodged a bullet. A big one. The whole experience taught me that sometimes the best revenge is just refusing to play someone's twisted game and choosing your own happiness instead. I poured my mom another glass of wine and enjoyed the quiet.